am Sophie. Before I was a wife, before I was betrayed, before I learned the meaning of courage, I was simply a girl from Alicia. Alicia was not marked on most maps. It was a village where days were measured by sunlight, not clocks. Roosters decided when we woke up. Hunger decided when we slept. The earth was our employer, and it paid us just enough to survive. My father's world was the field. His feet were always covered in dust, his clothes faded by sun and time. When I was small, I thought he smelled like soil and sweat because he belonged to the land. Only later did I understand poverty sticks to a man like a second skin. My mother had soft eyes and tired hands. She never complained either. She believed that a girl's happiness depended on where she was married, not who she became. And me, I was quiet. I listened more than I spoke. I learned early that dreams were a luxury we could not afford. Still, I believed in goodness. I believed people meant what they said. That belief would cost me everything. The day the American man arrived, the village gathered like birds around grain. He stood out immediately, his accent, his confidence, his careless smile. He looked at Alicia as if it were a storybook village, not a place where people struggled to eat. He noticed me when I was filling water from the well. I remember lowering my eyes, not from shyness, but from habit. Girls like me were taught not to be seen too clearly. He saw me later. He spoke to my parents. He praised my simplicity, my silence, my obedience, qualities that sounded like compliments, but felt like chains. "I want to marry Sophie," he said. Those words changed my parents' lives in seconds. I was not asked if I loved him. Love was not part of the conversation. Safety was. Escape was. Opportunity was. That night, my mother held my face and said, "You will live a better life." I believed her. The wedding was quick. Too quick. I wore borrowed jewelry. Smiles were forced. Blessings were heavy with expectation. When I left Alicia, my father did not cry. He simply touched my head and said, "Be a good wife." I carried those words across oceans. America was nothing like I imagined. It was colder not just in weather, but in feeling. The house I entered was large, but it did not feel like home. His family lived there too. I was the outsider, the quiet village girl who spoke little and observed everything. My sister-in-law was different from me in every way. Confident, sharp, comfortable in her skin. She laughed loudly, moved freely, spoke without fear. I admired her. I also feared her, though I didn't know why my husband changed after the wedding. He was not cruel. That would have been easier to understand. He was distant, polite, absent even when present. At night, he spoke kindly, but his eyes avoided mine. "You must be tired," he would say. "Take this and sleep well." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe marriage meant trust. Each night faded into darkness too quickly. Each morning, I woke with an ache I could not explain, loneliness beside the man who was supposed to be my world. Time has a way of teaching even the simplest heart. I noticed patterns. I noticed silence. I noticed the way my sister-in-law looked at me sometimes, not with cruelty, but with something like guilt. The medicine began to feel like a question. One night, I decided to listen to the voice inside me. the one I had ignored my whole life. I pretended. I lay still. I breathed slowly. I waited. The house came alive after midnight. And in that quiet, truth found me. I will not describe what I saw. I do not need to. Some betrayals are so clear that words would only insult them. What broke me was not just what my husband did, but how easily he did it. As if my presence did not matter. As if I were already erased, I returned to the room, sat on the bed, and felt something shift inside me. The girl from Alicia was gone. Morning came like an accusation. My husband did not meet my gaze. He did not ask if I slept well. He did not ask anything at all. That silence told me everything. I realized then, some men do not marry women. They marry convenience. And I was done being convenient. I packed quietly. Each folded cloth felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I touched the red thread my mother had tied and felt tears finally come, not for him, for the girl who trusted too easily. I left the house without confrontation, without drama, because my dignity did not need witnesses. Life after leaving was not easy. Freedom never is. I worked small jobs. I learned new words. I learned how to speak up, how to say no, how to look people in the eye. Loneliness visited me often, but it no longer owned me. I discovered something powerful. I could survive betrayal. I could survive loss. I could survive myself. I did not return to my village because I was healed. I returned because I was tired of running. America had taught me survival, but my soul still ached for the soil that raised me. I wanted to stand once more where my name had first been spoken with love. When the bus stopped near Alicia, my heart raced like a frightened child. The village looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had grown larger. I walked the familiar path to my house, carrying hope like a fragile glass cup, careful not to drop it. But the door was locked. A neighbor recognized me after a long pause. Her eyes softened before her words did. Sophie, you didn't know. That is how grief sometimes arrives, not as thunder, but as a quiet sentence. My father was gone. My mother was gone. No letters had reached me. No messages crossed the ocean. Death had come and gone while I was learning how to survive somewhere else. I sat on the ground outside the house and cried like the girl I once was. Loudly, without shame. The earth absorbed my tears the way it always had. For days, I felt hollow, as if the last thread tying me to my past had snapped. But something inside me refused to die. There was no one left to save me now. So I saved myself. I sold the little land my parents had left behind and moved to the nearby town. I started small, very small. A tiny shop, long hours, empty pockets. People doubted me, a divorced woman. Alone, quiet, they did not see the fire beneath my silence. I worked harder than I ever had. I failed more times than I can count. But each failure taught me something money never could: resilience. Slowly, the shop grew. Then another. Then partnerships. I learned numbers, negotiations, confidence. The girl who once waited silently at night now spoke firmly in meetings. I became a businesswoman not because I wanted power, but because I never wanted helplessness again. When people call you successful, they assume you are whole. They are wrong. Success does not fill empty chairs. It does not bring back parents. It does not erase memories, but it gives you choice. And with choice comes responsibility. I began noticing the elderly, the forgotten ones. Old men sitting alone outside tea stalls. Old women waiting for children who never came back. I recognized that loneliness. It looked like mine. I used my earnings to start a nursing home. Not a place of waiting for death, but a place of dignity. We served warm food. We listened. We celebrated birthdays no one remembered anymore. I sat with them in the evenings, listening to stories that deserved to be heard. Some of them called me daughter, some called me sister, some just smiled, and that was enough. In caring for them, I healed parts of myself I didn't know were still broken. One afternoon, my past walked into my present. My husband stood before me older, quieter, stripped of confidence. Time had taken from him what arrogance once gave. He apologized, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to clear his conscience. He asked me to come back. I looked at him for a long moment, not with anger, not with longing, with clarity. I told him no, not because I hated him, but because I had already chosen myself. Some doors are not meant to be reopened, no matter how softly someone knocks. I know now that love without respect is emptiness, that silence can be unlearned, that strength does not announce itself, it builds quietly. I am Sophie, a village girl, a broken woman who stood up, a businesswoman, a caretaker. I did not return to my husband, but I returned to myself. And that was the greatest homecoming of all. If you liked this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means a lot to me. I will be back soon with more stories to help you learn English. Take care and remember, you are strong, you are brave, you deserve love and respect. See you next time.